Welcome to today's explainer. So I want you to start by picturing a scene in your mind. Imagine you're flying high over a perfectly calm, brilliant blue ocean. Let's say you're on a routine commercial flight, heading down to the sunny Bahamas. The skies are crystal clear, the sun is just shining brightly off the water, and you're settling in for what really should be a completely unremarkable, smooth journey. Pilots literally make this exact trip thousands of times a day without a second thought, because it's one of the most well-traveled, heavily monitored routes on the planet. But then, suddenly, things take a very dark turn. Your compass starts spinning wildly out of control. You reach for your headset to hail air traffic control, but your radio is completely dead, just silent. Out of nowhere, thick, dark weather swallows the aircraft, and you lose absolutely all visual reference to the horizon. Now, this phenomenon is scientifically known as spatial disorientation, and it's actually one of the leading causes of catastrophic aviation disasters worldwide. When the instruments fail and visibility drops to zero, well, human senses simply cannot be trusted. Within a matter of minutes, a fully functioning aircraft can plummet into the ocean, vanishing without leaving a single trace behind. Okay, let's dive into this, because while that terrifying scenario sounds exactly like the opening scene of a Hollywood thriller, it's actually the historical reality of one of Earth's most famously contested regions. For generations, this specific patch of ocean has absolutely captured the world's imagination, fueling our deepest fears about the unknown. But today, we're going to separate the Hollywood fiction from the scientific facts to figure out what is really going on. Section 1. The Ultimate Ocean Mystery. For decades, people have desperately tried to make sense of these disappearances. It's human nature to seek grand explanations for terrible tragedies, right? Because of this, the cultural conversation has totally been dominated by supernatural theories. Some folks firmly blame alien abductions, suggesting extraterrestrials or just snatching vessels right out of the sky. Others point to the hidden, highly advanced technology of an ancient lost civilization, like Atlantis, lurking beneath the waves and emitting magnetic pulses. But the reality? The reality is far more stark, and honestly, a whole lot more tragic. We are dealing with documented history here. Countless real missing ships, real missing airplanes, and real missing people. And when you factor in that this region sees massive daily volumes of commercial, military, and private vessel traffic, the raw numbers begin to paint a picture of mathematical probability rather than some science fiction movie. So that brings us to the ultimate question. But what is the truth? We know the myths and we know the wild supernatural theories that populate the internet. But to truly understand this phenomenon, we need to shift our investigation away from science fiction and ground ourselves firmly in the geographical facts. Let's move to Section 2 and see how this builds, mapping the Bermuda Triangle. The Bermuda Triangle is a vast area located right in the North Atlantic Ocean. But here is a fascinating fact that completely shifts how we should look at this whole thing. Despite its massive global fame and its dark history of swallowed ships and doomed aircraft over the last 100 years, this region is completely unofficial. Official organizations like the United States Board on Geographic Names and the U.S. Coast Guard, they don't even formally recognize it. Why? Well, because extensive data analysis shows that the accident rates within this specific area are actually no higher than in any other heavily traveled region of the world's oceans. The math simply doesn't support the existence of a cursed anomaly. And the geography brilliantly illustrates exactly where this danger zone lies. You just need to connect 3 distinct spatial coordinates: Miami, Florida, Bermuda Island, and San Juan, Puerto Rico. When you connect those cities, you frame roughly 500,000 square miles of open ocean. That is a massive expanse of water. And crucially, it contains some of the absolute busiest shipping lanes in the entire world. Every single day, massive cargo ships, cruise liners, and hundreds of private boats and planes crisscross this exact territory. Just by the sheer law of averages, having such an immense volume of traffic moving through a highly unpredictable ocean environment naturally increases the statistical probability of accidents. Knowing all of this, the high traffic volume, the lack of official recognition, the statistical realities, how did an unmapped patch of heavy traffic transform into a legendary supernatural mystery? Was something supernatural really happening? To answer that, we have to look back at the catalyst. It all traces back to one specific, absolutely terrifying case study on the historical record. Section 3. The Flight 19 Vanishing. We aren't just talking about a single lone pilot getting lost in a sudden storm. No, we're talking about 5 heavily equipped U.S. Navy Avenger torpedo bombers vanishing simultaneously on a single day, December 5th, 1945. These were rugged, battle-tested aircraft. The sheer scale of losing 5 military planes at the exact same time is just staggering, and it's the specific incident that permanently cemented the terrifying reputation of this region in the global consciousness.
So the crucial point is that this wasn't some highly dangerous combat operation in uncharted, hostile territory. Flight 19 was supposed to be a completely routine overwater navigation training mission. But the factual insight that's often missing from the myth? Human error. The flight leader, Lieutenant Charles Taylor, was highly experienced in combat, sure, but he was notoriously bad at navigation. He actually had a documented history of getting lost during flights. On this specific day, Taylor became hopelessly disoriented, leading his entire squadron further and further out to sea instead of back toward the Florida coast. Let's walk through this chilling, step-by-step timeline of failure. It starts with takeoff. Everything seems completely normal. Then, mid-flight, Taylor reports something deeply unsettling. His compasses are malfunctioning, and he's entirely confused about his location. Shortly after that, as darkness falls and the weather deteriorates, radio communication is completely lost. They're silenced. But the real shot comes hours later. A heavily manned rescue plane is sent out to search for the missing Avengers, and that rescue plane disappears shortly after its own takeoff. But wait, it wasn't a ghost story. That rescue plane was a PBM Mariner, an aircraft notorious for lethal fuel vapor leaks. Actually, it was so bad that crews nicknamed it the Flying Gas Tank. A merchant ship in the area actually reported seeing a massive mid-air explosion at the exact time the rescue plane vanished, grounding this twist in a tragic historical reality.
Now, what's really interesting here is the sheer finality of the event. It's what shocked the public and birthed the legend. None of the aircraft were ever found. No wreckage, no oil slicks, no bodies were ever recovered. Just gone. But when we apply geographical science, this lack of evidence makes perfect sense. This specific patch of ocean contains some of the deepest underwater trenches in the world, including the Puerto Rico Trench, which plunges over 27,000 feet deep. On top of that, the fast-moving Gulf Stream acts like a powerful river within the ocean, quickly sweeping away and scattering debris in a matter of hours. When a plane crashes here, the evidence doesn't linger. It's swiftly swallowed by the deep. Which leaves us with the ultimate question as we wrap up today's explainer. Is the Bermuda Triangle hiding a dangerous secret? We've analyzed the coordinates, the history, and the terrifying, yet highly explainable, reality of Flight 19. The real secret of the Bermuda Triangle isn't supernatural at all. It's a potent, deadly mix of severe weather, the fast-moving Gulf Stream, incredibly deep trenches, tragic human error, and, well, our own psychological need to turn ordinary tragedies into extraordinary myths. Thank you for joining me on this explainer, and it leaves us wondering, are we more terrified of a supernatural ocean or the simple, unforgiving reality of nature itself?